Yeah, g'day. It's been a while since I last put up a video about anything, let alone a review, so I'm going to be doing a review tonight on the Walther P99RAM paintball pistol. It comes in a nice little Walther branded pistol box, which has got convoluted foam, aka egg crate foam, on the inside of it. Comes with a number of things thrown in for good measure: a ball snake, a little packet of cleaning cloths, small tube of lubricant, that's for the gun, not for the user, a CO2 powerlet similar to that, and an alternative back strap for those whose hands don't quite fit the standard back strap. The real steel comes with two alternative back straps, a small one and a large one, the standard being the middle sized medium one. This is the small. The P99RAM does not come with the large, and I've never seen any sign that they actually produce a large for it. However, given the dimensions are pretty much identical to the real steel, you could probably, if you needed the larger back strap, get the one for a genuine P99, and it would clip straight on after you've driven out the small pin, removed the standard back strap, and then clip the alternative back strap in place and drive the pin back through. Simple as that. Came with about 9 tiny, this isn't the 9 obviously, 9 tiny .43 caliber chalk balls as a sample. Chalk balls are a little bit different from the .43 caliber paintballs, and I'll get onto that properly later on. It has a bore plug, which of course you put into the bore to when you're between games, so that people wandering around can see that your firearm is not in any state to be accidentally discharged in their direction. There's a nice big visual cue. A lot of clubs insist that between games you have a bore plug. Ours certainly did. Now to the pistol itself. It's based on the second generation Walther pistols. By second generation I mean the first ones looked slightly different. On the second generation pistols you've got the different grooves on the slide for gripping it and sliding it back. You've got the longer slide release and the longer magazine release on the trigger guard there, and the front of the trigger guard is curved back. It's still got corrugations on it for you to put your fingers on if you're doing a Weaver style hold, two-handed hold, but it doesn't have the forward facing hook that the first generation pistols had. The big difference between this and the real steel, of course, is the rather obvious modified, and you can see it's got its little Walther P99 logo on it, modified size of the magazine foot and the cylindrical screw cap where the CO2 cartridge gets put in. This just unscrews. The CO2 cartridge sits down inside there. Just pop it in. That's still the same spent one. Screw it up inside the grip, and then you turn it to break the seal on the end of the powerlet, and it's ready to work. Of course this one's not, because it's got an empty powder in it. You eject the magazine using the release on the side there, and the magazine itself is more like a little tiny stick with a small hole. It's got a spring to slide on the side so you can pull the spring down to aid in loading it. There are little tiny rubbery protrusions on the inside of the top there. They stop the ball from just rolling straight out when it comes up into the top of the magazine. These are advertised as having a 9-shot capacity. That is 9 of the chalk balls. It will only take 8 of the .43 caliber paintballs because they're slightly larger in diameter. So .43 means different strokes for different folks, obviously. But the paintballs, being slightly larger, can also jam in the magazine. You can't get as many in there, and if you try to force a 9th one in, you're going to deform the paintballs and cause yourself untold problems. And I've also found that the paintballs themselves invariably break in these guns. I've chopped more paint with this than I have with my Spider MR1 marker, even when that was, you know, in need of a bit of tender loving care. This thing will chop the .43 caliber paintballs like you wouldn't believe. However, it does fire the slightly narrower, by enough to put a whole extra one in there, .43 chalk balls. Fires those with like a charm. Well, that is to say, this particular one does. My second one chops paint and chalk with equal impunity. So it seems to be a bit of a fault with that. I've never been able to get the second gun to work smoothly for more than about 10 minutes at a time. In the end, I took to just taking the magazine out of it, sticking it in my pocket and playing with just the one gun rather than having two. Yeah, 2 guns. Yeah. I actually find 2 guns kind of handy because you run out of ammunition with this one. Instead of having to hastily, come on, oh God's sakes, let it forward and go, you just go bang, 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 oops, I'm out, but I'm ready to go again. That's why I carried 2. But because of the paint problems and chalkball problems with the second gun, I don't use them. So that's the one minus, is that it seems to be a bit of a pig in a poke. I've got a very, very good one that doesn't give me any problems unless I try and put paint through it, and I've got another one that doesn't seem to want to eat anything really. Well, chops them up and spits them out. As far as accuracy of the gun, well, aside from the rather obvious CO2 canister down the bottom, this is extremely accurate. It looks and has the same dimensions of the real steel. It functions very much like the real steel. You cycle the action and you'll notice it's just locked back because I've got an empty magazine in it. So it locks back on an empty mag when you've discharged the last of your paintballs. The nice extra long slide release on the side lets the slide go home. At the back of the pistol you'll see there's a nice little red dot showing in the center there to show you that it's cocked. Yes, I know I'm pointing it at myself. This is not a suicide attempt. It's empty. We know it's empty. We've just taken it apart and demonstrated that it's empty. The slide has a decocking button on top of it, I'm going to attempt to stabilise the pistol while I decock it. Normally I'm of course holding it round there and decocking it that way. That's a bit of a mish, but I'm going to try and point this at the camera and simultaneously hit the decocking button. It worked. You can now see that the little red button, little red dot just vanished inside. It's no longer cocked. It will fire from this mode though, because it's a double action, single action pistol. It will fire with a long, as you can see, sustained pull. When it fires, the CO2 projects the paint or chalk ball out the end. Well, the CO2 makes it chop up the paintball, but it fires the chalk ball out the end, and it cycles the action. And if there's another round waiting, it'll chamber it and be ready to fire. If there's not, of course, it's going to lock back like that. So once it's cocked it again after firing a shot, the next shot is a very crisp single action shot. It means I can carry this thing in condition 2, chambered, ready to go but decocked, on my holster. I can draw it from my holster, sustain fire, no, sustain pull to fire, double action, and then the next shots are all single action afterwards until I run out of my 9 shots. On the whole, a very, very good piece. Like it very much. The branding on it is exceptional. It's got the, since it is a genuine Walther pistol, it's got the Walther logo down the bottom, just like the real steel. Up on the slide, you've got the Walther logo there, and across here you've got P99, and it's got RAM for real action marker after it. Down on the small little oval here, it actually says Carl Walther Ulm Do, short for Donau. That's where the original Walther factory was, at Ulm in Donau. On the back, it's got trademarked to Carl Walther Germany. It's got a serial number. It's got a lengthy warning that it's not a toy, and read the instruction manual and make sure you don't shoot at somebody who's not wearing protective gear. And it's got practice safety on a little thing at the back here, and up towards the front here it says made in China, because it is. The manufacture of these things is outsourced to China. Excuse me, but it's done with Walther's careful supervision of the end result, you know, quality control and checking. So we're not talking, oh, this is a cheapy rotten Chinese thing. This is not. This is made in China. The Chinese do make good stuff, especially when you've got a quality control person from Walther inspecting them and saying yes, that's okay. And so on the whole, I'm very pleased with this purchase. So pleased that I bought the second one so that I could have 2 for my quick change of principal firearm. As far as that goes, it was a bit of a failed experiment, with the second one being a bit finicky. I will at some stage take it apart and see what is in there that might be causing it to bind and chew them. As you can see from the bore at the end, monstrous great .43 caliber smooth bore. Loud, fairly loud, yes. Let this thing off and people know that you're around and playing. Weight wise, it's actually, as far as I can make out, heavier than the real steel, because the real steel is actually real polymer, whereas this thing, there's a fair bit of metal in its construction. The slide's metal, the frame's polymer, and it's quite a weighty little beast, but not too bad. I mean, it's not like as heavy as a fully loaded Colt 45 ACP. And what I like about it, of course, is that the P99 fits my grip absolutely perfectly. I think that the Walther technicians sneaked into my house in the dead of night and took detailed measurements of my hand, because the damn thing is practically tailor-made for my grip in its default standard backstrap configuration. And as far as point goes, the angle is perfect. I can close my eyes, extend it out, and find that I'm looking directly down the sights when I open my eyes again. So, an ideal pistol for me. Your mileage may vary, but if you are looking for a decent paintball pistol that doesn't look kind of space agey weird and who threw up on the design board like certain other paintball pistols, then you couldn't go too far wrong with this. Of course, the Rat 4 / Sig Sauer have got the X50 or Sig Sauer P226 style real action marker, and there is a Glock styled real action marker out there as well for those who find that the ergonomics of the Glock suit their point better than this or the Sig. But on the whole, a very, very good pistol. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and we'll see you in the next review.